Pylon listeners, we are back, and it is the end of August. September is rolling right on, and so is the NFL season. Less than 2 weeks away. The preseason is over. Now it's just a waiting game, basically. So I'm Big Z representing Detroit Lions. Let's get on to the rest of the Pylon crew. We got Barney representing the Bears.
Justin Fields is the best quarterback on the Bears. It's just a matter of time.
Kanger representing the Packers.
Gentlemen, as always, good to be back with you. Let's talk some football.
And last but not least, we got Remy representing the Vikings.
Kellen Mond has earned that QB2 spot. Skull Vikes.
All right, gentlemen. So on this episode, we're going to be going over the recent cuts today. We're recording this on August 31st. So team rosters have been set, for before there's waiver wire transactions and all that good stuff after. But the 53-man rosters at least have been cut down, and that happened at 3 o'clock today. So let's just react to some of those things. You mentioned Kellen Mond, Remy, as a quarterback too. So any significant cuts that the Vikings made that maybe surprised you, or any reactions really going on there with the cuts today?
I honestly think the only cut that surprised me was defensive tackle Hercules Mataafa. Really good, was very consistent, had a very good camp. I don't know if they end up if he clears waivers, if they bring him back on the practice squad, but I thought for sure he was making the 53 roster. And, I was more jumping with joy. I believe I said back on the podcast, Jake Browning can go to hell. And he went. He's gone. He is gone, and he'll be on the practice squad. Kellen Mond has earned that number 2 spot.
Has he earned?
What's that?
I'm just curious why he's earned it, because you were,
his Kansas.
Your feelings are the complete opposite. 2 weeks ago,
very
you were
true.
High praise. Last week, shitting all over him. This week, now he's earned the quarterback 2 spot.
He played very well against Kansas City. Showed signs of athleticism. Shown signs that he can throw the ball on the money, and kept him in the game. So credit Kellen Mond. It wasn't pretty. It certainly won't be pretty for a while, and that's why he's a backup. I'm hoping he can just learn from Kirk and learn what not to do and what to do and be a good quarterback. But, guys like finally we cut Dakota Dozier, shitty ass guard, would hurt your quarterback more than help. And then we cut Everson Griffin, who can, it's a procedural cut is what I'm saying, is where they plan on bringing him back in. This was just all part of a procedure where they have to cut him, fill out some paperwork, and then they're going to re-sign him. So all indicates that Everson Griffin will be back with Minnesota.
Why would they need to do that? Do you know?
Some sort of veteran contract cut. It's because they need to place a few guys on IR, and then they'll have room for him to return to have a roster spot.
I do know that a lot of the coaches, they implement this tactic where if you sign a guy and he's there for the start of the season at week 1, if he's on the roster and he has a contract, then that whatever portion of that is guaranteed, it's guaranteed. But if you sign somebody after week 1, those are week to week paychecks. So nothing's really guaranteed when you offer a contract after week 1. So there's a lot of scheming going on with these GMs right now.
Interesting. I was not aware of that. There's always some weird rules going on with these salary cap people these days. It's hard to keep track of sometimes, really. Remy, did you have any last thoughts?
Last thoughts is, I don't think we've talked since, but Harrison Smith, re-signing him. Did we talk about that last podcast? No, I don't think we did.
It just happened between
second highest paid safety. And when asked about being the second highest paid safety, his response was, "I'm just glad to be finishing my career in Minnesota." It frees up $3.3 million this year in cap space for the Vikes. So Harrison Smith will be a Vike for life and will continue to wreak havoc upon the NFL and specifically the NFC North.
Is there a player option, or I'm sorry, not a player option? Is there a team option for them to potentially get out of this in 2 or 3 years, being that he's 32 years old?
I believe so. I believe his last year. He can opt out if he wants. But they did, he talked about his contract that he signed in 2016, saying, if I play until I'm 34, until I'm here, can I play this long? A reporter asked him, you're going to be close to 38 when you're done. Can you still play at a high level? And he's just taking it year by year. Each person has a different body and they recover different. So he's pretty confident. He's stayed, knock on wood, consistent and productive and healthy for us. So hopefully the Hitman can be playing at a high level at the nearing end of his contract.
Yeah, I saw like $26 million guaranteed. It's pretty hefty money, but Harrison Smith, he's a dog. He's a good player, has been for many years. So
yeah, really consistent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can't fault the Vikings at all. It probably made sense from their perspective to try and lock him in and save some cap in the short term.
All right, so let's move on to the Bears now, Barney. Well, what's the reaction over there with any of the cuts? All good?
There was actually a few that were surprising to me. The Bears, we cut 2 of our draft picks so far this year. One being Thomas Graham Jr., 6th-round pick from Oregon. I will say that our cornerback room can always get better, so that was a little bit surprising to me. He definitely was, one of the, worst guys like in this last 3, games of preseason, but that was to be as expected. He was the youngest one out of the group. Then my next one that got me a little bit more was Daz Newsome, 6th-round pick again from UNC. He's a wide receiver, slot wide receiver.
Yeah, I like that pick too when they made it in the draft.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a head scratcher to me. I don't know, he kind of he broke his clavicle or collarbone, months ago, so he kind of had a slow ramp up. But it kind of makes me scratch my head because we're keeping guys like JP Holtz, to be our 5th tight end, and I mean I just don't understand it. But to each their own. Maybe I think Daz Newsome is somebody that might get scooped up by a team that definitely needs wide receiver help. But that's neither here nor there. Couple guys that played themselves into roster spots here. Jesper Horsted, our tight end from Princeton. He probably had the best game last week. He had 3 touchdowns. He really played outstanding. He's at the tight end position. He's probably tight end number 4, tight end number 5, whichever way you want to draw it. The Bears, they keep 5 tight ends for back-to-back years, which again to me is a little bit head scratching, but I'd rather have Jesper Horsted out there. That's why I didn't name him earlier. JP Holtz it's weird. Another guy that played himself into a roster spot, Rodney Adams. You guys heard me last couple weeks bring up his name. I wanted us to drop Ridley. I wanted us to drop Wims. And Rodney Adams, he had a hell of a game that 3rd game as well. He's just all over the field. So they did drop those guys and they brought in Rodney Adams. So I'm pretty pleased with that. But it kind of felt like we lost a few names that I don't know, they could have been key, not key. They could have just been nice developmental pieces. One last guy I think that earned themselves a spot obviously is Alec Ogletree, the linebacker, veteran linebacker. He didn't even play in the last game, so it was just like solidified that he was just going to be our backup linebacker or switch in with Danny Trevathan. So a lot of guys they dug deep and they earned those spots. For the most part, all the cuts I was pretty okay with. It's just the 2 young guys I didn't really understand too much.
For sure. Yeah. Remy and Kinger, do you guys have anything else to add to anything?
I just want to ask Barney if he's feeling fully confident in the Bears' evaluation capabilities here going forward with some of these guys you mentioned.
I got one thing to say. The Bears must be desperate for the Bears are either desperate for wide receivers or Rodney Adams has come a long way from the Vikings practice squad.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think as it stands, he's wide receiver number 5 or 6. Darnell Mooney's above him, Allen Robinson, Marquise Goodwin, Demiri Bird, and then Rodney Adams. So, I was impressed by him, especially, you got guys like Riley Ridley, who's a 4th-round draft pick. You got guys like Javon Wims, who the year before from Georgia was a 7th-round draft pick. They really didn't do anything. And it's like, for me, it's just like NFL stands for not for long. If you're not going to produce, find another team then, because there's no use here. So, Rodney Adams played well, and I don't think he'll have too much receiving time, but I think he deserves it.
And you mentioned Trufant?
He got bounced. I really didn't think he was going to make the team.
You were kind of saying he'd be a decent filler piece early on, so I didn't know if that was surprising to you that he got cut.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know if I ever really had much faith in him. I know that once we let go of Kyle Fuller, the next week we brought in Desmond Trufant, so he was just kind of like the splash piece. But at the end of the day, that cornerback 2 spot, I think we're not done yet. I think once this waiver wire hits, I think there's a few guys that we're going to definitely need to go to in free agency to boost up this secondary, because it's pretty desolate. We only got 4 guys in the whole cornerback position. So I don't know, a little bit of really a weakness for us for sure.
Gotcha. All right. So let's move on now to the Green Bay Packers. Kinger, cuts. What do you have to say?
Well, I think the most surprising cut of the day comes, it's not even a cut, it's our punter we drafted a few years ago. J.K. Scott has been waived, and we traded for Corey Boroquez. I'm so bad with names on this podcast.
From the Rams, right?
From the Rams. Rookie out of New Mexico, I believe, or New Mexico State is where, not rookie, actually. I think he's a couple years, but he's from New Mexico State. The Rams' second punter this offseason, preseason, they elected to keep Johnny Hecker. The Packers ended up sending a 6th-round pick and swapped a 7th-round pick and for Corey from the Rams. This dude apparently had a really impressive preseason, averaged like 50-something plus yards in the air, had a couple 60-yarders, pretty consistent, being able to pin people inside the 20. So the Packers making big splash in the trade market today. We got to be one of the only teams in the NFL that drafts a punter, use a 5th-round draft pick on a punter, then cuts him 2 rounds later, and then 2 years later, and then ends up getting back in the mix to give up another pick for another punter. So pretty consistent. But outside of that, nothing really surprising when it came to the roster cuts today. We didn't end up keeping 3 quarterbacks. We did cut Kurt Benkert, who I said, is probably going to be a team or a guy that has some interest from some different teams out there. Originally, they were talking about potentially Atlanta, but Atlanta decided to they have 3 quarterbacks on their roster already, including Josh Rosen. So that doesn't look like it'll be in play for him. Be really interesting to see what happens going forward and if he's going to get the opportunity on another team. Other than that, not going to really go down the line too much. A little bit of surprise cut and guard Ben Braden. He was in the running, throughout camp, for most of camp, to be, at least a rotational piece in the interior offensive line. They had him get a lot of reps with the ones. Ended up cutting him and keeping Jake Hansen, who was our draft pick out of Oregon last year. Hadn't really got a whole lot of, visibility or notoriety in camp, but supposedly in the preseason games, he was one of our highest rated offensive linemen. They've slot him as the 9th and final O lineman that we kept, and they're going to keep him on the 53 for just some additional depth. The big move today, I guess, that everybody was talking about is we did put Bakhtiari on the physically unable to perform list. That means that we will be without him for at least the first 6 weeks of the season. They're saying it's probably going to be more like 7 or 8 before we see him back. Not overly surprising, but coming off that ACL tear on New Year's Eve last year, it was going to be a lot for him to get back for the start of the season. On average, it's normally about a 10 to 12 month recovery. So I think that time frame, another 6, 7, 8 weeks, is going to be looking a lot more likely for him. I guess the final one that I would highlight is Malik Taylor ended up making the squad. He's a guy that, I mentioned last week, really came on in camp, had shown a lot of promise, ended up catching another 5 balls in the Buffalo game. So he's made the squad. Happy to see him. And other than that, it's just pretty normal for the Packers. Everybody's pretty consistent with who we thought was going to end up making the roster.
All right, I like it. Not too many surprises. That makes it nice and easy. Let's move on to Detroit now, where they've kept it interesting all offseason. They kept it interesting today. First of all, cutting both the kickers on the roster. You don't see that too often. So right now, Detroit does not have a kicker on the roster. That will change, of course, coming up to week 1. Although it'd be fascinating if they decided just to go no kicker. Somebody's got to kick the ball off, unfortunately. So no kicker right now. But the best cut I thought that we made, thank God he is gone, is Jelani Tavai. One of the worst second-round draft picks. But, gentlemen, this is just a reminder of the Lions' recent history of second-round draft picks. Jelani Tavai, then Teez Tabor. Teez Tabor didn't make the Bears, nope. Right, Barney?
Nope.
Okay. Good for you. Then A'Shawn Robinson and Kerryon Johnson. Kerryon Johnson was good for about a year and a half till injuries. A'Shawn Robinson, up and down. But then after that, Amir Abdullah, who I believe is still on the Vikings, right, Remy?
He just got waived.
Oh, okay. Kyle Van Noy, who actually was bad on the Lions and then won a couple Super Bowls for the Patriots. But, man, you talk about, like, Titus Young, Mikel LaShore, Ryan Broyles. It's a bad history of second-round draft picks, and Jelani Tavai, another victim of the second-round draft pick. So watch out, Levi Wunzarike for Detroit Lions in his future. The odds are not in his favor right now, but I do believe. More interesting thoughts about some of these cuts. There's one guy I want to mention. I don't think I've talked about him too much because he's a fringe player, running back. So this guy was an undrafted safety. They moved him to running back before camp started. They told him a week before camp started, we're going to try out running back. His name is Godwin Igwebuike, and he made the roster as a running back. He balled out in preseason, and now he is on the roster. So that is quite incredible. The Lions also picked 3 undrafted free agents to head up or to be part of their secondary. A.J. Parker, Jerry Jacobs, and Bobby Price. So I thought that was very interesting. They cut Nickel Roby-Coleman, Mike Ford, Corn Elder, all these veterans to go with really young defensive backs. So I think that's really fascinating, their decisions there. They also went 3 quarterbacks. Tim Boyle's out for 6 to 8 weeks with a broken thumb, but David Blau made it as well. Oh, and there's one more. Tyrell Crosby, a swing tackle that I've really liked for many years. He got cut today too, or waived, I guess. If nobody picks him up, I guess the Lions could put him on IR and then bring him up on the roster later. It's some weird rule. But they don't think too high of him. Not as highly as I thought of him, at least. So that's kind of everything, at least is my reactions to the Lions cuts. But again, no kickers and a safety, undrafted free agent safety turning into running back and making the roster is something you don't hear of hardly ever in the league. So I thought that was interesting to note. So those are our reactions to the 53-man roster, the final cuts. And now as we head into September, it's time to go over some predictions. That's right, folks. We're going to get into all our predictions. So what we're going to do, we're going to guess our team records. We'll all have an opinion on each of our teams, I'm sure. And then we'll go over some of the individual awards and our thoughts there. And maybe other little bets that we see here or there related to our teams. So what do we want to do? We want to go in alphabetical order? Want to start with the Bears?
Sure.
Let's do it. Let's go with the Chicago Bears. So Barney, and remember, 17-game season. So
do you want me saying all 4 of the teams, or just are we going to go around and do the Bears?
No, yeah, we're going to go around. This is going to go team by team. So we're all going to talk about the Bears, and we'll move on to the next team.
Sure.
So Barty, do you want to go first or last with your prediction? What do you think? Do you want to hear everybody else's thoughts, or do you want to put your
It
thought
doesn't
out
matter to me. My thought's not going to change. You know,
Let's
to be
go for
honest,
it, Barty.
this is I'm going to try a new approach this year, because I think our high level execs and our coach, they need to be better. You know, I don't really fault the players too much here, because it's hard to love the vision that these higher execs have, and especially our head coach. I think he's just kind of a little bit of a guy who's in over his head. But you know, I'd love to be proved wrong. Prove me wrong, Bears. But with all that being said, I have a 10-7 record at the end of the year, and that's contingent on Justin Fields starting 15 games. So after the first 2, maybe, then he's in, you know, I'd say he'd have to get there. Otherwise, you know, I'm going through the list, and it's tough. It's tough for me to give an overall record, you know, because I think the Bears are in their own way all the time, and that's why I kind of have this contingency here. They play people who are not, you know, starting caliber. You know, and we've gone over that. I don't need to name all the names from last year, but if Justin Fields is out there for 15 games, you know, right after week 2, you know, I think we can turn out 10 wins. I mean, we're a playoff team last year. I mean, I don't, you guys are all scoffing. We're a playoff team last year. I don't think 10 wins in a 17 game season is too much if you believe in your quarterback. And
you guys got rid of the Nickelodeon most valuable
the
player.
MVP. Yeah, that's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt the team for sure. But we also have Andy Dalton slinging the rock in the first week. And before Remy gets all, you know, hating on Andy Dalton, he went into Minnesota last year and kind of put up a whooping on the Vikes and their shitty defense. So talk all that shit, Remy, but Andy Dalton whipped your asses last year, and I'm cool with that. So, you know, that's 10-7 if Fields is out there.
All right, 10-7. Interesting. Remy, he called you out. So, what do you think? 10-7? That sound right to you?
No, I think it flip flops and it's 7-10.
I should note the Bears over under per DraftKings is 7.5.
Yeah, I mean, all the hypes with Justin Fields. I like Justin Fields, but you just got to be realistic with a rookie quarterback, and I think he sees some things he's never seen before, and you know he's getting an L when he plays Minnesota twice. So yeah, I just don't see it happening. 10 wins with a rookie quarterback and Justin Fields, not happening in my book.
So what do you think 7-10 then?
7-10.
All right, Kinger.
I'm gonna echo Remy here. I think the Bears are looking at a 7-10 season. I think Barney's assessment, I think it's going to be a little earlier than what I think his assessment of potentially getting Justin Fields in their game 3 is a little earlier than what it might end up being. I think the Bears roster from the skill positions on the offensive side of the ball is there. It's where they need to be. They do have some talent, especially with Allen Robinson. I do think David Montgomery is a very solid running back. That offensive line, however, I think is going to be pretty atrocious again. I got it being bottom 5-7 in the league. I think it's going to lead to some inconsistent quarterback play, no matter who's taking snaps. The defensive side of the ball, I think that front 7 is going to be one of the better ones in football again. I like a lot of what they have in place there. It seems like they're hitting on this Travis Gibson guy as well. He's another guy that's getting a lot of hype from the Bears. That secondary, I think, is still going to be an issue. You need another all-pro season from Eddie Jackson. You need him to bounce back. But long run, I think the Bears roster still has too many holes. I think that offensive line is going to be too much a problem, 7-10.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree. I had 7-10 down as my mark as well for the Bears. And more so, I think, because the defense is not going to be as good as it has been the last couple of years. I think it's going to take a step back with a new play caller as the coach. And I think you're overrating that front 7 just a little bit, in my opinion. But that offensive line is truly, I think it's, agreed, bottom 5 in the NFL, and I think that's going to be a big problem. So I think a regression and the performance of defense plus the poor offensive line, I think is gonna. But like the combination 7-10, and I might be generous with that too, Barney. So I'm gonna agree with the public because the bets appear to be on the under of that 7.5 at -140. It's even odds for the over. So I'm gonna have to go with 7-10 as well.
You're saying that like, guy, I should be like upset with your number here. I mean, I totally think, and that's why I had to call him out, that Nagy will be in the way of this Bears team. He just puts people out there that shouldn't be out there. And, so I don't really totally have a lot of faith in him. However, dude, I mean, I know it was just preseason, but if Justin Fields is out there, this is this really streaky Bears team. I mean, dude, they have the club dog. They got everything. Like the second they got Justin Fields being their quarterback, oh my God, you got Eddie Jackson. You got all those guys who play with a bunch of different hype. And I think that there will be a completely different attitude because, it's just last year watching these guys, you could just tell that they lost it. You got Nagy being super positive, and it's just like, dude, what offense are you talking about? You guys, I don't hate your guys' predictions. You're right in line with the odds makers. And also, I think we bear right now the season's hardest schedule to start. We don't know how that'll pan out. So I mean, what you guys are saying is totally possible and probably more likely than 10-7. But I got a little bit more faith because we might actually have the best quarterback this team's ever had, and that's more of a sad statement than like a boost.
I don't know. But it should be noted that the NFC North is playing the AFC East and the NFC West, probably the two toughest divisions in the NFL in terms of both those divisions going to have 3 playoff teams, as far as the odds indicate, and the strength of schedule indicates. So for all our teams, it's going to be there's going to be a lot of interesting, tough matchups this year, for sure. Let's move on to my Detroit Lions. I can't wait to hear what you guys think. I want to go last. I want to hear what you guys think first.
Oh, no. You go first, just like I had to go first, and then you can fucking hear everybody else. You cow.
I gave you the option. No, I gave you the option.
Be confident, Big
Fine.
Z.
So the over-under in the Lions is 4.5. It's the second lowest in the NFL. And you can understand why.
Definitely.
Not a lot of faith in Jared Goff, in the public eye, at least. A totally revamped defense. I just said 3 undrafted free agents are playing in the secondary, at least at the moment. And a wide receiving core that is still highly questionable. I forgot to mention in the cuts, Brashad Perryman. The Lions gave him $3 million this offseason and cut him. He didn't even make the roster. And this is considered one of the worst wide receiving cores in the NFL currently. So, I mean, the fact they didn't make it is a little suspect. They traded for a wide receiver today from the Broncos. I don't know if that's going to mean anything. It is like a 6th-round draft pick. But basically, what I mean is the wide receiver. There's so many question marks on this team besides maybe offensive line and maybe defensive line because we do have some depth there. So our linemen on both sides of the ball are okay, but everything else has a lot of question marks. Having said all that, I love Dan Campbell. I love his enthusiasm. I love this whole coaching staff down to Deuce Staley, Anthony Lynn.
Please give us a double-digit prediction. Please give us a double-digit prediction. Double-digit win prediction.
I'm not going to go that high, Kinger. I really wanted to. I really wanted to really drink the Kool-Aid. But I think 7-10 would be considered a really good season for this team. I think 7-10 would be a huge step up considering how much overturning this roster had. So 7-10, but I really wanted to say 9-8, but I hope my expectations are exceeded extremely. But 7-10, I think, is more than a leap forward for this organization, especially all the overturning that they've done in this past offseason.
And so you believe that, or that's what you want?
What do I know? I'm my prediction is 7-10.
Okay.
But I would love to see, obviously, something more. That'd be great.
Sure.
I just think there's a lot of work to do with the roster still. And this is probably the most realistic I've ever been in terms of my predictions for the Lions.
Oh, really? Oh, really? I'm gonna go first.
Go for it.
I mean, I think I'm truly being generous here. I really do. I'm not trying to be an asshole. This is a foreshadowing for one of my favorite bets of the year. I have them going at best if the ball continues to bounce their way in key situations. 3-14.
No.
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 I'm gonna say why. I'm gonna say why.
Not with Motor City Dan Campbell.
You have the worst quarterback in the division, and that includes Andy Dalton or Justin Fields. You have the worst wide receiver crew.
Maybe.
You have Tyrell Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's going to be your guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you got Hawkinson. I like Hawkinson. Don't get me wrong. I like him a lot. He's good. Your running game is suspect, but I'm going to say this. The games are won in the trenches, and I think you guys might churn out. I have Cincinnati here. I have Atlanta here. I have Arizona, and I have Philadelphia. I'm saying at best, you can win 3 of those games. You're not winning all 4 of them.
What about the Bears? I think we get the Bears once.
That's totally fine with you. I don't think you scored more than 10 points in both games combined.
All right.
I'm sorry.
Wow, thanks for being so kind and generous with the prediction.
Yeah, man. I had to give it right back to you, but that's what I had. It wasn't an emotional response.
Fair enough. It's your opinion. I might disagree. But Kinger, go for it. Don't forget, Dan Campbell is the coach of this team. He's a
weightlifting coach.
He will refuse.
I want to believe in Dan Campbell. I want to. And I want to think that he's going to bring the Lions out of this dumpster that they've been in for years and years and years. I'm not saying he's not going to be the guy, but right now he's not going to be the guy. This Lions roster, top to bottom, is just not where it needs to be. The offensive line might be able to provide some hope for the roster. At least to be an overall pretty consistent and positive unit, because I will give you that. There's still some work that needs to be done with Panay, but it's still young, and I do think it's ultimately going to end up panning out for him. Wide receiver core, like you mentioned, terrible. There's nobody on the defensive side of the ball that you really look at in Detroit and you're like, this guy can really play. I mean, your best player, Okora, would you probably agree with that, Big Z? He's probably...
Okora is our best pass rusher. He's not our best run stopper by any means. Jamie Collins can be in the right situation our best defender.
Okay.
And then, like Flowers, Barney, in this defense that we're running will be very interesting because he was brought over to play a completely different type of defense. So I'll be I don't know what to expect out of him this year. I'll be really curious about that.
That's another point I'm going to make, right? Just brand new system. A lot of guys that are really kind of just filler guys for Detroit while they work on this rebuilding process.
A lot of guys on 1 year and 2 year deals.
Yeah, exactly. And being in a position that the Lions are, with the schedule that we have to face as a division this year, playing the AFC North and the NFC West, the 2 divisions that are arguably the toughest in football, I don't see the Lions being able to get up every week consistently. Maybe Dan Campbell does that. I see 3 wins on the schedule as well. I don't think that they don't even sniff their under win total this year.
I just want to mention that the Detroit Lions over is the most heavily bet on over in Vegas.
I feel very good about that then.
Yes,
I love fading the crowd.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying the public is Dan Campbell fever as well. I think they're really feeling the energy over here in Detroit. Remy, come on, you're
Remy's gonna play nice guy. He's Mr. Jay Leno over here.
Come on, buddy.
No, I mean, you can talk about the coach all you want, but I think that roster is pretty much the roster that fake football team that ESPN
Bishop Sycamore.
Bishop Sycamore.
Bishop Sycamore. I mean, that roster doesn't.
Come on.
The roster doesn't do it for me, but I will give it to you. I'm saying you guys will at least get 5 wins on the season and go 5-12.
Hey, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, I think 5 is pretty generous, and who knows, you might get 6, but it all just depends on who Jared Goff connects with. You guys have one of the best offensive lines, but like you said, I can't really, nobody stands out on that defense, and I can't really get into anybody on that offense, but I'll still say you sneak out about 5 wins.
Well, I appreciate the more slightly more positive spin there, Remy. Thanks, buddy.
Anytime.
But yeah, I can't wait to come back in this podcast in 2 weeks, and the Lions have defeated the 49ers in week 1, and you'll all just, your jaws will be dropped.
Big C, I'll just say this out. I'll say this out there. All right. You said
Yep.
7-10.
Right.
When the Lions win their 7th game, you know what? I'll be generous. I'll knock it down a peg. When they win their 6th game, it'll be probably cold out because it might be the last game of the year. You know, that at the end of the year, you don't know. Some team might already be in the playoffs. They might rest their players. If they win that 6th game, I will immediately walk my ass to Lake Michigan and jump in the water.
I'd love to see it. I'm confident it's going to happen. So get a wetsuit or something. You better buy it right now. Supply chain issues. Order it now so you have it on time. All right. So enough about Motor City Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions. Let's go on to the next prediction, and that is the Green Bay Packers. Kinger, take it away.
Boys, we're making a run this year. I feel it. Just by trading for a punter, this is the year that the Green Bay Packers are going all in. I do not want to discredit the strength of schedule that we have this year. It's been a repeated topic here that we're talking about with road games at New Orleans, at San Francisco, at Kansas City, at Baltimore, plus the interdivisional road games. It's going to be a challenge. And I do think that 3 losses, the 13-3 that Green Bay put up last year, I think we're going to add another loss to that column this year. I still think we get to the same amount of wins. I'm going 13-4. I think they win the division with ease. And I think this offense, again, proves that it's going to be the best in the league. If the defense can even remotely get it together and perform like a top 10 or 12 defense this year under the new Joe Barry scheme, I think the Packers are going to be a force to be reckoned with, and you guys are going to have to deal with Green Bay waltzing deep into the season again.
Kinger, so the over-under on this, when I mention the odds, listeners, it's DraftKings. These are all DraftKings references, so maybe you're using FanDuel or something else where the odds are slightly different, or the over-under. But on DraftKings, at the very least, the over-under is 10. Why is it? But over is minus 165, under plus 135. So it could be 10.5 in some places. Either way, that seems a little low based on some of the expectations this team has.
Oh, well, I agree. I mean, I think that road schedule that I just listed off is the exact reason why, right? I mean, out of those, you already know we have the divisional opponents, but out of those games, the New Orleans, San Francisco, which New Orleans isn't really a true road game anymore. So I'm definitely going to give the Packers the edge in week 1 when that time comes to discuss. So you can throw out at least one true road game, but out of, San Francisco, Kansas City, Baltimore, those are 3 very difficult games to win on the road, all very good football teams. There's a reason I think why that Packers over under is a little bit lower, but I would comfortably take that over again. There would be no doubt about it. And I actually will now that we're talking about it.
Remy, you always have a lot of love for the Packers. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, let me tell you, first of all, with ease is hilarious because that's just completely wrong. There's nothing easy about winning this division. Or at least competing with the Minnesota Vikings with this revamp.
That's
defense.
right, Remy.
So, the with ease is just kind of silly to me, but Green Bay sucks, and Aaron Rodgers I could see come out flat, and all of a sudden he's thrown for maybe 4 picks in the first 3 games, and nobody knows why, and it's maybe because he spent too much time in Hawaii, or maybe it's because he pulled up to training camp in flip-flops and board shorts. I don't see it happening.
That's a guy who's relaxed and knows he's going to win football games.
I think they'll win around 10 games and be on the fight for the division with the Minnesota Vikings. But walk in the park, that's not happening at all.
So you're saying 10-7, Remy?
Yeah, 10-7.
And does 10-7 win the division?
10-7 ties the division.
So who wins the division at 10-7? Who
Minnesota.
Okay. Maybe I should have waited for your Minnesota prediction, I guess, for that one.
Because it's going to be it's one of, they're going to split with the Packers are going to split with Chicago, I hope, or Detroit. Detroit somehow always plays them really well, and I don't understand it. But
not going to have to worry about that this year.
I was about to say, it's probably not going to be Detroit, but Dan Campbell, that's right. Maybe he should suit up and take the field. But
Kinger, the Packers just better watch their kneecaps when they come to Detroit. That's all I'm saying.
That we always have to watch our kneecaps with all your teams.
No, the referees do a good job at watching kneecaps. That's fine. Anyway, no, I think 10-7 is a pretty reasonable and realistic expectation. Who knows? Could be less.
All right. So my Packers prediction, I think I'm going to go. I had a 11-6 or 12-5. I'm battling between those two. I'll lean 12-5 because I do think this is a really good Packers team. Their offensive line, I know they had a little change there, but they just seem to find a way to have a consistent offensive line, which is one of my bigger concerns with this team. But I really do. I think they're a complete roster. I do have them winning division as well, and I think 12-5 sounds like the right number. I won't be betting the over. I don't like the odds on that, but I do like 12-5. I do think they short up some of the secondary as well. That'll hope. For at least for your sake, Kinger, alleviate some of the problems that you had last season.
Very kind words, Big Z. It makes me feel good to hear you say that.
But at the same time, fuck the Packers.
Yeah.
Barney,
you went 12-5, and I went earlier and I looked at everybody's schedule and I picked the same wins, all the way through. So, I have Green Bay going 11-6. They had 2 straight years of 13-3. I think they overperformed, in my opinion. We have the harder, schedule, like you guys mentioned earlier. Bakhtiari's out for 6 games because of the PUP list. Is that massive? No, but you got Elton Jenkins out there who's more than capable of filling that spot, but still, there's a little bit of shuffling with that old line. It's not going to be as good as it was last year. You got Corey Linsley out. You got a lot of hard teams: San Fran, KC, Seattle, the Rams, Chicago, Baltimore. There's a lot of teams that could give a good fight here. And like I said, I think you overperformed the last couple of years. I still think you win the division at 11-6. I think this division gets kind of beat up by friendly fire and the strength of the schedule, but nonetheless, Green Bay at 11-6 takes the division.
All right, so 3 of the 4 of us think Green Bay has won the division. Interesting. We'll see how easy it comes, though, Kinger, for them. I don't think it'll come as easy as you say it will, like Remy said. I would agree with him about that at the very least. But let's move on now to Minnesota, Remy. I think we know your feelings a little bit about how this season will play out, at least per your predictions. So take it away.
Yeah, no, I think Vegas has Minnesota at 8.5 wins, I believe. So, and I mean, with all the additions, all the weapons, I mean, having Irv Smith get hurt definitely hurts, but having one of the best running backs in the league does not. Having a revamped completely defense, I don't think you guys understand the magnitude of this defense. You look and can see how can just one offseason change the entire defense. Well, I'm going to just let the plays speak for itself. This defense is going to be unlike any Minnesota defense we've ever seen, and could be possibly better than the 2017 defense when we held opponents to 17 points per game. That being said, I think Minnesota goes 10-7. I do think we break the tiebreaker over the Green Bay Packers by winning one more divisional game. I think we go 5-1 in the division, with a loss potentially being to somebody like Chicago, because we can never win in Chicago.
So you think you beat Green Bay twice in that scenario?
I think we can beat Green Bay twice. I do. I really do. I'll say that every year. And, because losing to Green Bay is pretty much the worst week of my life. When Green Bay won the Super Bowl like 30 or 20 or 10 years, I don't know, whatever, doesn't even matter. It was a decade and a half ago. It's pretty much the worst year of my life, but I've pretty much forgotten about that because Green Bay just can't do anything else other than lose in the NFC Championship. So, I think Minnesota has a good chance at making a run this year if everyone can stay healthy and Kirk Cousins has a clean pocket.
All right, Kinger. A lot about the Packers there, so I'll let you take that next.
I'm not even going to do this to try and be mean or to stir up shit, but I don't think the Vikings are going to sniff double-digit wins either. I think that this is a team that just is average across the board. I don't think that there's any I mean, you have one of the best running backs in football in Dalvin Cook, and you do have upcoming, which I do believe in the upcoming years will be one of the best wide receivers in football with Justin Jefferson. But that defense just, to me, doesn't do it. I mean, you have some pretty good...
What part of the defense? What part?
You have some pretty good linebackers.
We have the best middle linebacker
That's
in
your
the game.
Opinion.
What?
Fred Warner.
Fred
Warner's better. Roquan Smith's better.
Okay. No,
I know that one. That one I threw in there.
So
Roquan Smith's better.
Thank you.
At worst, we have the third best linebacker in the league. Then
linebacker's not that important anymore.
At the end of the day, the Vikings will be pretty good against the run defensively. I don't see this revamped secondary, right? You've got an aging Patrick Peterson.
Yeah, he's not what he once was.
You look at your cornerback depth chart. I mean, Bashad Breeland, I'll give the guy credit. He can play some football, but he's also got some big missed plays out there. I mean, look at that. Mackenzie Alexander, Cam Dantzler, Chris Boyd. Yeah. I mean, I don't think that you guys have the depth that you're talking about there. I don't see
I'm very triggered because this is just insanity. This is just nonsense.
I don't see the stud defense, right? And you've got a very shaky offensive line still. Although I do say you got a good one in Cleveland, and your right tackle as well I think is O'Neal is his name. I think is pretty solid. I see the Vikings being right where the over-under prediction is. I was originally going to go 7-10 with the Bears, but I'm going to give them one more. I'm going to go 8-9, and I think Minnesota fans are once again somewhat disappointed with how this season goes.
Oh my God, I cannot wait for this defense to just you won't hear me.
Remy, I just don't know how you get, especially with your praise of like the defense from 4 years ago, just averaging 17 points a game against.
When you look at all the people we lost last year and the people who we gained in the offseason and got back, we have one of the deepest defensive lines in football. We have the cornerbacks who now have experience and who now have a veteran presence in Patrick Peterson. And we have Bashad Breeland.
Captain
and
Kirk.
We have our safeties. Exactly, who is amongst one of the most accurate and efficient
when
50%
of your tosses are behind the line of scrimmage to your running back, you better be one of the most accurate quarterbacks. Otherwise, it's a fumble.
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing a lot more laughing than I'm crying on this podcast.
Remy, I think you guys got a hell of an
great.
offense. I think if there's a team like the Bears, and you kind of mentioned it, that can stop the run, I think that is kind of your Achilles heel. If you guys can't run the ball, your play action doesn't get off, right? And honestly, that's how teams game plan against the Vikings. Now, whether they can stop the run is one thing, right? If they're built to stop the run, they game plan and say, make Kirk Cousins beat us. And he's got studs. I like Thielen. I like he's been getting banged up a little bit the last couple of years. I still like him a lot. I think he's one of the crispiest route runners. As far as Justin Jefferson, I think he's very good. But at the end of the day, if you take out Dalvin Cook, which is a tall task, but if you're built to take out Dalvin Cook, I mean, that's where you see Kirk Cousins with another 2 or 3 interception day. And it's just like, yeah, roll that tape. We've seen that a million times. I think they're a good team, but they're just so one-dimensional. It's not even funny. And that's coming from a Bears fan we can't run the ball. So I know what one-dimensional looks like. But again, without any animosity, I think you guys, again, with this hard schedule, I see a 7-10 record.
Good. Book
Interesting. I have a little more optimism just because I do like some things that Minnesota does, and they always seem to just. I do think they're going to hover around 500, kind of like Kinger was saying. There are some good things, but I don't see the immense upside that you're seeing, Remy, in terms of the defense. But I do think there's enough talent on offense with Jefferson, Cook, and just the zone blocking scheme that they run since Zimmer's been there, basically, or Kubiak's been there, really. It's his son, too. Don't forget, first time play caller on Kubiak's son. So I don't think you can completely discount that. I think that they get off to a little bit of a slow start because of that too, and just with everything going on in the offseason. But I have 9-8. I had Minnesota at 9-8.
Respectable.
Yeah,
I think that doesn't. I think that doesn't make the playoffs though. I think they just miss. And the odds right now, the odds for Minnesota to make the playoffs per DraftKings is plus 120. So the odds are actually against them right now. And the public,
everybody should go bet that now because this is the off year that we do make the playoffs. It's been every other year since Zim started. So history says we make it. I said all year last year, history says we miss, and I was correct.
You were correct, all right.
And yeah. And history says this year that we make it, and this defense is going to pretty much shut every single one of you guys up.
Ooh.
So you think the defense can withstand some injuries like they had last year? You think they have the depth?
I do believe we have the depth, yes.
I mean, you're really pumped about getting Everson Griffin back. And I just want to recall when
I don't need Everson Griffin back.
When they got rid of him, you said, thank God I don't have to hear first down because of offsides. He is the worst. Blah, blah, blah. And now you're singing his praises. And it's just, I think you guys are going to have a good defense. I just think our schedule is way tougher than you're giving credit for. And I don't see it.
You don't have to see it. You'll see it week by week.
Fair.
Time will tell. All right, gentlemen. Let's go on now to some other predictions that maybe not necessarily don't have to do with the NFC North, but just overall. And we don't have to spend a ton of time on these, but just our quick opinions on them, perhaps. And we're going to start with the Rookie of the Year awards. Offensive Rookie of the Year. I'll start with my prediction for this, especially after the announcement today that Cam Newton got cut from the Patriots. Mac Jones at 6-1. I think that's my favorite to win Rookie of the Year, personally, especially if we know he's going to be starting all 17 games for them this season. Before we go around the rest of you, just Trevor Lawrence, 3.5-1 odds. Mac Jones, 6-1. Zach Wilson, 7.5-1. Justin Fields, also 7.5-1. Trey Lance, 7.5-1. Then you get to Najee Harris, Kyle Pitts, Javonte Williams, so on and so forth. But Barney, who'd you have here? Offensive Rookie of the Year.
I'm going to go with my guy here, Justin Fields, plus 750. I think he's going to be in there a whole lot sooner than everybody else. Thanks. And Mac Jones, that's playing the odds right there. But I think his offensive core is kind of dog shit. So he's going to have to be really fucking good. And if he gets it, then he really deserves it. I more so think the Bears might lift Justin Fields just because he's got an incredibly, sure number one with Allen Robinson. And I think our defense might play a bigger role in keeping games in and, wins, losses, they play a role in trying to give, awards at the end of the season. So I'm going to go Justin Fields.
Kinger.
I'm going non-quarterback. I'm going to take Najee out of Pittsburgh. I think he's going to be an absolute workhorse this year. I think the Steelers are going to try and focus on running the ball a little bit more than they have historically, not put as much strain and stress on Big Ben. That offensive line is decent out there, decent enough. Najee has shown he can be a multidimensional threat running in, catching the ball. I like him. I think he's going to put up a lot of yards this year.
What's his average? Do we know his average draft position in fantasy?
I think he's
drafts? Is it top 5? Has it been top 5? I haven't done mine yet.
I don't think that.
He's like right around 10. I want to say right around 17. 17 to 14, I want to say is where he's kind of fallen.
I can understand maybe why, just because the Pittsburgh offensive line has been brutal. Last year was really bad. I think the average run before contact was like 1.4 yards. So basically, they were getting no push off the line, and the running back was making contact 1.5 yards on average.
They have tried to revamp that offensive line again. So we're gonna see what happens and if there's any success.
I think if he wins that, and I like that pick. It's strong, especially for the odds that you're getting. But he was one of the most sure-handed college backs, out of the backfield catching the ball. And I see. I mean, not a Le'Veon Bell, but if he's going to win it, it's going to be because he's putting the receiving work to use like Le'Veon Bell did back in the day. So I like that pick. I think he's pretty damn good. He hurdled one of my Notre Dame guys in the playoff semifinal, and I have not been able to recover from that.
I just think there's too many good rookie quarterbacks for a non-quarterback to win the award. But I like the boldness, Kinger. I like the boldness. Remy, who'd you have in this?
I'm gonna go with the easy one. That's Trevor Lawrence. Came out. I love the way he slings the ball. I think he's gonna shock a lot of people with that Jacksonville team and what's left of that Jacksonville team. But I think Trevor's just really gonna put the team on his back, and I think he's gonna make a strong case for Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Urban Meyer gonna be coaching up the Offensive Rookie.
Dude, he looks pretty damn good. I will say that.
Oh yeah, he's always looked good. But let's move on to Defensive Rookie of the Year. So let me just throw up the top 6 names on the list here. Micah Parsons, 6-1. Jamin Davis?
Yep.
Jamin Davis, right? Yeah, 8-1. Jalen Phillips, 10-1. Patrick Surtain, 12-1. Kwity Paye, 12-1. Zaven Collins and J.C. Horn, both. And Jeremiah Owusu-Karamoah, 14-1. Let's go to Kinger. Who'd you have here?
I'm going with Surtain. Again, the two Bama boys, I think, are going to end up winning Rookie of the Year, respectively, both on the offensive and defensive side of the ball. I think Surtain is an elite prospect coming out. Everybody had him graded the way he was for specific reasons. I think that Denver defense is going to be pretty good. Add in just some additional help in the secondary. I think he's got the physicality to lock people down, lock down number 1 and 2 wide receivers consistently. I'm going to go with him. Bama sweeps the Rookie of the Year awards.
Ooh, yeah. Man. So, I mean, the amount of Bama players on that team a couple of years ago, what was it, 2018, when, like, they had if you go look back, it's ridiculous how many guys.
It's stupid, but let's not talk Bama. Fuck Alabama, man.
Fair enough. Remy, who'd you have here? Defensive Rookie of the Year.
I had Micah Parsons, and I think that's a safe bet. I think the scheme he's in is going to fit him really well. But I mean, as I was looking at it more, I do like Patrick Surtain a lot. I think he is probably going to be like the sleeper. But just for safe measures, I do like Micah Parsons to win that.
All right, Barney.
Yeah, I had to go back and forth with the same two guys. I think Michael Parsons is overall just an absolute monster. Nobody shoots the gaps like he does. He's so fucking fast at his size. But I think that defense, it was historically bad last year. And I don't think who's their defensive coordinator? Anybody know?
For who?
Dallas? Dan Quinn.
Oh, all right. So he's a defensive coordinator. He was back with Seattle before he went to Atlanta. That's how he get the job.
Right.
They got some playmakers there, but I'm going to lean on Vic Fangio here. He loves to have a really good defense. When he has a really good defense, it's because of the cornerback play. And I think they got just such a strong secondary. And teams are going to look to go to Surtain because he's the younger guy. And I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities to get those picks or, PBAPs. And so, I'm going to go with Patrick Surtain.
All right. A lot of Patrick Surtain love, and I do agree. I mean, him fitting on that Broncos team is like the rich getting richer with that secondary that they have. And Vic Fangio, of course, a well-respected coach, I think, for all of us here. But I was stuck between Jamin Davis and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. I think Jamin Davis with that defensive line on Washington is going to get a lot of opportunities to make tackles and really rack up some stats for this award. But Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, if you haven't watched him in the preseason, he is explosive as hell. Everything that non-scouts really liked about him, why they had him ranked so high in the pre-draft. The fact that the Browns got him where they did in the second round is still amazing to me. He has been balling out in the preseason, and I like that dark horse feel to him, so I'm going to go Owusu-Koramoah at 14.
I love that pick, too. And dude, that defense is going to be pretty damn good this year.
It could be. They have some interesting, like Grant Delpit. I've heard his name thrown out. I mean, he's coming off a major injury.
For sure. I just think,
and Greg Newsome the second as well.
They're going to be able to get after the quarterback.
Young guys. Oh yeah, that's for sure. They absolutely will. And just to throw it out, Eric Stokes, Kinger, 35-1.
Sprinkle, just sprinkle.
But just wanted to mention,
just sprinkle.
For sure. All right, so let's move on now to Offensive Player of the Year, and let's start with you, Remy. Who'd you have here?
Well, I had in my notes all day that Christian McCaffrey was probably going to get Offensive Player of the Year, but I sat down for the last couple hours and I really thought to myself, and it's Vike Nation, baby, it's going to be Dalvin Cook. So Dalvin's going to have a breakout year. Stay healthy. He's going to rush all over everybody. He's going to catch touchdowns. He's going to go in for touchdowns. He's just going to do it all.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to bring the team to the promised land. Dalvin Cook, book it, Offensive Player of the Year.
All right. Barney, who'd you have?
I don't see this going any other way personally. I like King Henry in the running back for Tennessee Titans. I mean, you tell me how you're going to play that offensive team. I mean, are you going to stack the box when you have A.J. Brown and Julio Jones out there? The guy has 2,000-yard rushing seasons, and I mean, his team he just looks like less of a more important person and on that role.
Are you gonna stack the box when we have Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson out there?
That's how you do it. You shut Dalvin Cook up. I've already talked about that, Remy. I
mean, you still have Kirk Cousins throwing the ball, Remy. That's just the X factor and all this.
I mean, but you have Tannehill on the other side.
Shut the fuck up, Remy. No,
Tannehill can run a little bit too.
Yeah,
dude.
I mean, that's another thing that Kirk Cousins doesn't do. So,
yeah, well aware.
I like Derrick Henry. I'd like him to be knocking on that 2,000 yard mark again. I just that offense just got scarier, and that team for me is one of the teams to beat in the entire league. They got a great defense. They're going to play ball control, and they're just going to play smash mouth. I love the Tennessee Titans this year.
All right. So Offensive Player of the Year. This one's always tricky between this and MVP. Do you guys know the breakout, like MVP versus Offensive Player of the Year? Like who wins one versus the other by any chance? I was not able to find it before we started this podcast. I don't know if you guys had that by any chance.
I would assume the MVP is like whoever took first and whoever took second gets Offensive Player of the Year. That's sort of how I think about it.
Yeah, this is tough. I like. So here are the odds: Mahomes 7-1, Henry 7-1, McCaffrey 10-1, Rodgers 12-1, Dalvin Cook 14-1, Josh Allen 15-1, and then I'll throw in Nick Chubb and Kamara and Devontae Adams. All those guys 16-1. I like Josh Allen at 15-1 here for Offensive Player of the Year. I think he's going to step up, possibly even have a better season than he did last year. I think there's a lot of positives going his way. New contract this season. There's a lot riding on him. I think he's going to have another fantastic season. He's lucky he got to keep his offensive coordinator. So I have Josh Allen. I think those are good odds, too, at 15-1. Tinger?
I was leaning towards Allen as well, and I think I might just make a little slight adjustment just to not follow the suit with you. I'll go with Remy. I'll go with the hometown guy. I'm gonna say Devontae is gonna win the Offensive Player of the Year. Last year, 2020, playing in 14 games, he put up some stupid numbers. Was on track to really shatter some potentially challenge some NFL records. 14 games last year, 18 touchdowns, 115 catches, almost 1,400 yards. If Devontae can stay healthy with this receiver depth that we have, again, some guys taking some next steps, I think he's going to be a catch machine again. I love that over 110 catches that is on the season this year.
Yeah.
With getting that extra game, catching 115 last year. If he just stays healthy, I don't think there's any reason he doesn't do it. He's the best route runner in football. I expect big things. I'm going to give him the nod as the Offensive Player of the Year this year.
Absolutely. Let's move on now to Defensive Player of the Year. Here are the odds: Aaron Donald and Myles Garrett 5-1, T.J. Watt 8-1, Chase Young 8.5-1, Joey Bosa 10-1, Nick Bosa 16-1. Then we get in a little more interesting one. I'll Derwin James and Khalil Mack 16-1, and there's a lot more others listed after that. I'm gonna go Myles Garrett here. I know it's one of the favorites, but I think. He had COVID last year, messed him up a little bit, and he was still a good player. I think he made some adjustments, and then they're getting some help on that defense as well to maybe free him up a few more times than he was last year. So I really like Myles Garrett at 5-1. Barney.
I really like Myles Garrett as well. I've picked him, I think, the last 2 years, and if it wasn't the Mason Rudolph slam your helmet against his head sort of thing, or was that last year or was that 2 years ago?
2 years ago.
I just think Myles Garrett gets in the way of his own self. He's an absolute knucklehead, and I'm tired of betting on him, although I see the absolute potential. I'm going to...
But he writes poetry.
Yeah, and he likes dinosaurs. I don't know. I'm going to go with Chase Young. I think that might also just be because there's no real way to play that defense with Sweat on the other side and just how really good up front they are. I think he's an absolute animal, and I'm gonna go with Chase Young.
It still pains me that the Lions couldn't get the second pick in that draft that year and got 3 instead and got Okudah. I think Okudah has a chance to be a good player, but he's not gonna be Chase Young's caliber. It just pains me every time. Anyways, Kinger.
I'm going TJ Watt. After a very successful year last year in 2020, 15 sacks, something 40-plus pressures, I think he continues to take the next steps necessary. Looking back on it, he was a guy that Green Bay had a lot of hype around, potentially drafting him a few years ago. Still only 26 years old. Has a couple, really elite players around him with Cam Hayward on the defensive line. And then you bring in obviously Minka, who's one of the best safeties in the league in the backfield. I think that Pittsburgh defense, or in the secondary, the Pittsburgh defense is going to be really good. I like TJ to take another step. I'll lean him this year and to dethrone Aaron Donald.
TJ Watts, another guy. I like that pick. I just want to throw out, I don't want to keep throwing out Lions players that I wish they could have had, but TJ Watt is absolutely up there because that year the Lions drafted 21st overall. TJ Watt was picked 30th, and we picked Gerard Davis, who is now with the Jets and injured. So congratulations, Lions, on missing out on another guy I really wanted, didn't take, and then he ended up being a great NFL defensive player. Go ahead, Remy.
I'm going to go with Aaron Donald simply for the fact that he might just have 4 sacks in his first game against the Bears.
That is so true.
He's remained dominant every year. But hey, my dark horse alternate is going to be comeback player of the year, Danielle Hunter, going up against Cincinnati week 1. He may have 4 sacks. He's a force to be reckoned with, but Aaron Donald / Danielle Hunter, but I'm going Aaron Donald. If you bet on Danielle Hunter, I bet you win a lot of money. I'm just saying.
All right. I like it. So last one, I lost the page for a second here, is MVP. So we got Patrick Mahomes 5-1. Aaron Rodgers, can he go back-to-back? His odds are 10-1. Josh Allen 12-1. Russell Wilson, Tom Brady 14-1. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray 16-1. Dak Prescott, Matt Stafford, 18-1. And then you get into some more interesting. Deshaun Watson's up there, 35-1. Anyways, Remy, MVP. Who do you got?
Kyler Murray. I stand by it. I think I said it last year too. With the addition with AJ Green. D Hop has just been phenomenal.
And Rondale Moore.
Yep, exactly.
You got to throw him in there for sure. King.
I think Kyler's a really good bet, and it's kind of a really good bet to bet on. Kyler Murray MVP. You heard it here first.
If he had a good coach, I'd say that's a great pick, Remy. But I think Cliff Kingsbury is ass.
And a defense. I don't think they have very good defense. You got to get some wins to win MVP.
You also, you put up stats too. You're always playing from behind.
It's not quite like baseball though, where you're gonna have a guy like on a 500 team win the MVP award. And in football, I feel like you got to get some victories and make.
You got to be valuable. And the way you assess a person who's valuable is you get W's.
Right. Exactly. Kinger, who do you have?
I want to say Rodgers, and that's who I'd bet my money on, but I'll go with the guy who you mentioned previously. And this is just, again, I'll be like Remy and say that Rodgers is 1A, and I'll go 1B just to not to be the homer here. But I think Josh Allen is got to be the favorite this year. I love that Bills team. I think that offense is going to continue to take another step. Brian Daboll's a great offensive coordinator. That whole team seems to believe in him. That scheme fits him well. And Allen just continues to make improvements on his accuracy. Rocket arm, as everybody knew. I'd like the Bills again to make a deep run and win again 12, 13 games at the minimum. And I think Josh Allen is going to lead the league in passing yards this year.
Ooh, all right. Barney, who do you have?
Same here. I'm going with Josh Allen. I think that offense, they do what it needs to be done in order to win the MVP at the quarterback position. They throw the ball. They got Stephon Diggs. They got Gabriel Davis, who I think is criminally underrated. Josh Allen, I'm a homer for that guy. I love to circle the wagons for the Buffalo Bills, and I think Josh Allen gets that MVP.
All right. So, Remy, Kirk Cousins, he's 35-1. Jared Goff is 100-1. I just want to throw those out there for fun. But who I have, and I thought one of you might mention it, or at least mention him, 18-1. The former Detroit Lions quarterback, now Rams quarterback, Matt Stafford, 18-1. I think those are really good odds. I'm going to be rooting for him to win this MVP award as long as, the Lions aren't in some sort of contention. Otherwise, I think Matt Stafford with the Sean McVay, there's a lot of positive vibes there. I'll be excited to bet Matt Stafford at 18-1. And I think if he carries that Rams team to 12 wins, he has a really, really good shot at winning that award. It'll be interesting to see what stats he puts up in that offense. I'm really excited to see it.
I think that's a solid pick. I like him a lot, and I think as long as people are believers in Sean McVay, which I think he's a pretty damn good guy. I think the only thing holding him back is the new quarterback for the Detroit Lions, and that's Jared Goff. So I do like Matt Stafford a lot.
I want to throw out one more fun one. I think it might just be fun to throw like $5-10 is Jameis Winston at 40-1. He could go off in that offense if his LASIK is some miracle cure, because the guy could throw the ball and put up a lot of stats. Can he fix the interceptions? Should be interesting.
Just got to throw it to the right team. Exactly.
Yeah, but he fixed his eyes apparently, so he's good. But all right, gentlemen, those are our predictions for the season. Oh shit! Good call, Barney. Of course. How could I forget Super Bowl winners? Barney, you take this one first since you called it out.
Yeah, and I was hitting on it earlier. I'm taking a dark horse here. I like Tennessee Titans. When it is late in the season and it is cold,
30-1
and
odds.
It is cold
30-1.
out. Nobody wants to tackle that bad man. And I just don't know how you're going to scheme against them. They're going to play great ball control. I think they're built for the playoffs. That defense is a lot better than I think people are gonna give it credit for. And I like Tennessee Titans. Shout out to the Pylon's favorite pharmacist, EJ Oldfield. Just gonna leave that there.
That Tennessee Titans defense was really bad last year, though. They would have to make a giant leap forward to do something in the playoffs, I feel. I mean, it was really, really bad. It was like bottom 5 in the NFL bad. And I think that actually even a worse pass rush than the Lions. Like, it was really bad. It'll be interesting to see if they can do. But interesting pick nonetheless. Remy, who do you have? Super Bowl champions. Is it the Vikings? 50 to 1 odds. 50 to 1.
Yeah. I bet on it just for fun. This would be the year that we should be able to win a Super Bowl, but I'm gonna come back down to earth and not be a quote unquote homer. And I have the Buffalo Bills over the Rams.
Buffalo Bills 10 to 1. So I should mention some of the odds here. The top odds: Chiefs 5 to 1, Buccaneers to repeat 6 to 1. Bills 10 to 1. Green Bay, Kinger, 13 to 1. Ravens 14.
Ooh.
The Ravens, 49ers, Rams 14 to 1. The Browns 16 to 1. Seahawks 20 to 1. Then you get the Chargers at 30 to 1. But Kinger, do you have the Packers at 13 to 1?
Yeah, I'm taking my boys. We're going Green Bay to win the Super Bowl. This is it. It's the last dance. It's the last ride with Aaron Rodgers. Green Bay is going all in. We know that this is the last year that this team is going to be together. I think the camaraderie is there. I do think we have the talent with having 3 top 2 position players in the entire league across the board in their respective positions with Rodgers, Bakhtiari, and Jair and Devontae. Make that 4. How could I forget? Top to bottom, I think the depth is where it needs to be. Again, if the defense just takes a step this year, the offense is going to be tough to handle. Green Bay over Buffalo. That's what I wanted to see last year. I think that's what we get this year. Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen Super Bowl. That'd be a lot of fun for small town USA to see those two.
There's so much Buffalo Bills love this season from so many people. That's what makes me concerned about picking them, honestly. There's like too much love. I just want to throw out. So wait, I didn't mention the odds of each of our teams. So the Packers at 13 to 1. You had the Vikings at 50 to 1. The Bears, where are you, Bears? I just lost them for a second. Oh, here we are. 65 to 1.
I thought you were going to say 69. I was about to say, throw it on.
And then you got the Lions. I'm still scrolling at the bottom. I'm just kidding. But 200 to 1.
That's it?
So $5, or maybe wait, I might be reading this wrong. It might be 2,000 to 1. Oh man, yeah. And there's only one team with lesser odds, and that's the Houston Texans, which is a true dumpster fire in every regard. I think the Lions to have the worst record in the NFL is 4 to 1 because the Texans are almost like at even odds for the worst record in the NFL. But yeah, the Detroit Lions 2,000 to 1. And there's a guy in Detroit that bet $1,000 on the Lions to win the Super Bowl. The article said the teller at the casino thought it was a joke, and they tried to reject it, but he was so insistent on making the bet. So they end up taking it because he wouldn't leave without them taking it. So props to that guy. I will not be doing that. I can guarantee you that. My Super Bowl pick. I think the Cleveland Browns got some magic in them this year at 16 to 1. I think the Cleveland Browns. I don't know who on the NFC side. I was leaning maybe Saints a little bit. I kind of like Jameis Winston in that offense. I think Drew Brees held them back last year, and I think they have really good coaching and still a good defense. So I'm gonna go Browns over Saints in the Super Bowl. That's my way too early prediction, and I'm gonna be putting some money on the Browns at 16 to 1 for sure.
I like it. Little different than most people, I'd say there.
That Browns team was immensely. They played Kansas City way tougher than the Bills did last year. I think they're way closer than any team to beating Kansas City in the AFC.
That Browns team, I almost picked them over the Bills because they legitimately might have one of the top defenses in the whole league.
And I love Kevin Stefanski, Remy. I think Minnesota really misses him as an offensive coordinator. He's a really, really good coach. So there it is, listeners. There's all our predictions for the season, and I'm definitely not missing any more categories, right, Barney? Not as big as that one for sure. So thank you for reminding me. But man, yeah, we went through a lot here. But gentlemen, the NFL season 2 weeks away. 2 weeks away. This is our longest episode ever, too. So that just tells you how excited we are for it. Oh, man. So social media, The Pylon, Twitter, at The Pylon Pod. Please subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, and leave a review. We'd really appreciate that. And please share. This is going to be a really exciting season. We're going to have a lot of fun reactions on the upcoming season. I think next week we'll be previewing week 1. Oh, so excited. We get to preview week 1 of the NFL season. It's coming up. So it's just all really exciting stuff. Did you guys have anything else to add before we wrap up here?
Vikings defense is going to shut everybody up.
All right.
I'm still so mad about that.
Back to two sods a week next week, right? We got to make that announcement next week. We'll be back to our normal schedule.
I believe so. Look out for that as well. So we'll have our preview and then our reactions to the week 1 games. So definitely be on the lookout for that. But everybody, thank you for listening. We'd like to hear your predictions as well on social media. So please reach out to us and let us know if you agree, disagree with the predictions. I'm sure there'll be a lot of disagreements. Nobody disagrees with mine. I know or maybe our listeners think more highly of the Lions than I doubt it. Come on, folks. Oh, man. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Get ready for the NFL season. Good luck with your fantasy drafts if you're doing that. And tune in next week for our week 1 previews.
Bear down.
Skull.